I wanted to read these verses to you from Acts 17. And we're going to keep reading them, the same verses, over the next few weeks and just camp out, if you will, at this passage for this new series that we're starting today. Starting a new series, and we're really just going to look at this passage again and again and again because there's so much in there that I want us to unpack of Paul in Athens. Paul is in Athens. How many of you have been to Athens? Many of you, some of you? Anybody from Athens? Good. I mean, people from Athens are welcome, but I just want to make sure there's nobody fact-checking. I think I've researched. I've not been to Athens. It's very much on my bucket list, but I've not been there. But I hear it's beautiful, and the food is amazing. People are nice. Ubers are expensive. Just a typical European city. But Paul went there before there was Uber, and he went there, and I think from the way ancient Athens is described, obviously very different to Berlin, but maybe not so different to the city that we live in, because Athens also was a very vibrant city where there were all kinds of worldviews and assumptions about God and beliefs and ideas. All of that was coming together in the city of Athens. So great minds, and they were, all day they were talking about the latest ideas and all of that. So they were a trend-setting kind of city. And here comes Paul, the apostle from the outback of Palestine, and he comes and the ambassador of Christ, and he confronts this ancient city with all their worldviews. He confronts them with the gospel of Jesus, and he says to them, I can see you guys are very religious, but you're also very ignorant, he says to them. You're also very ignorant. You've got God wrong. The title of our series is God is not who you think. Turn to your neighbor and say, God is not who you think. God is not who you think. And today I want to ask the question, how big is your God? How big is your God? And I don't mean how big do you say your God is, but how big do you believe your God is? Would you agree with me? There's a difference between what you say or what we sing about God and what we actually believe about God. Like you can say like, or maybe you're singing like, oh, be exalted in my life, Lord. My life is in your hands. I trust you. I surrender all. But really, when you look at your life, you don't trust him with much. And you allow him to take control of the areas in your lives that are not a problem right now, the areas of your life that you have already figured out. But wherever there are problematic areas, whether it's a relationship or your finances, you'd rather say, God, I don't know if I can trust you. I'd rather take care of this myself. I've had a moment like this when I was in my early 20s, I guess. I still remember it, where God showed to me, like, man, Dave, you trust me in theory, but in practice, you're a practical atheist. You're a practical atheist. You believe you live like I don't exist. And this was in my early 20s. I was 20s. and I was in a church service. And this was kind of church service. Maybe you've been in these kind of holiness churches where they have like benches up front where you could walk up and like some cushions and you can kneel and you pray, or someone prays with you and you surrender your life. It's a very kind of, it's beautiful. And we were in this church service and we were singing a song that maybe some of you know. It's called I Surrender All. Maybe you know this. I surrender all. I surrender all. It's like, goosebumps. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go up there now. I felt so holy. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to surrender everything to God. So I was like, okay, here I go. I was teary. It's like, oh, yes, I surrender all. Everybody was singing and like I knelt down and I was praying, God, I give you everything. I give you my car. I give you my house. I give you my girlfriend. I give you my money. And I just like, oh, this feels so good, such a relief somehow. And then I felt God tapping me on my shoulder. It's like, Dave, you don't have a car. You don't have a house. You don't even have a girlfriend. You don't have much money. What is it that you're giving me right now? I was like, okay. I need to dig a little deeper. So, God, I'm going to give you the church. And again, he said, you can't give to me what is already mine. Church is mine. It's not yours for me, to you to give to me. It's my church. I purchased her with my blood, not you, so it's my church. Okay, so, and then I felt God saying, like, what if you were to give me something that you want to control? What if you were to surrender your reputation? Or your fears about the future? Or your purity? Or your diet? But God, I don't know if I can trust you with this. And you see, I realized, man, I trust him in theory, but I'm a practical atheist. With some of these areas, I just pretend that he doesn't exist. Am I being too honest for you? Come on, don't look at me like I'm the only one who's ever had a moment like this with God. Okay, sometimes he's just gentle, but he's putting a reality check right in front of us. Today, we're asking this question, how big is your God? And I don't want you to be offended with this question. I want you to search your own heart. I want you to take inventory of your own heart. And I'm not saying, when we ask this question, I don't believe God is small, but I believe that many of us, our viewpoint of God, or our expectation of God, or our trust in God can become quite small. Maybe it's been bigger over time, but now it's become quite small for whatever reason. And I've discovered when your view of God is small, so is your confidence. When your view of God is small, so is your peace. So is your purpose. So is your joy. The smaller your view of God becomes, the smaller your life becomes. The bigger your view of God becomes, the bigger your life becomes. And we're doing this series that we call God is Not Who You Think, because it's really an invitation for all of us to have a closer look at God again. Maybe for some of you it'll be an invitation for the first time ever to have a look at God and actually consider him. But it's not just for new believers. Maybe you've been walking with God for years, and I want to especially challenge you. What if God is not who you think? What if God is bigger than you think? What if you need to look again at this God and get a brand new view? Because our God, he's not small. Amen? Our God, he's not tiny. Our God doesn't fit in our boxes. Our God does not fit in our preferences. He is big. He is great. He is mighty. Yes, he loves you, but he's not like you. Yes, he saves you, but he's not on your agenda. He is bigger than you think. He is wiser than you think. He is holier than you think. He is kinder than you think. He is better than you think. He is closer than you think. So we read in verse 16. Let's go back to the text. Paul is in Athens, and he's waiting for some people, right? In verse 16 it says he's waiting for people. Who is he waiting for? Is actually the context of it is he's waiting for two of his friends, Timothy and Silas. All three of them, this was Paul's second missionary trip, and they were traveling together from city to city. However, they got separated because of persecution. And I guess they must have had, because they didn't have phones or anything, they must have had an agreement. Hey, if we ever get separated, we'll just meet up again in Athens. It's not a very big city. We'll find each other. We'll meet up in Athens. And I guess that was the clue. And so he's waiting on them. He doesn't even know if they're still alive or not, but he's waiting. Hey, Timothy, Silas, here's where we said we'll meet again. So here's how I'm waiting on them. And so while he's waiting, he's walking through the city, and it says he's greatly distressed to see that the city is full of idols, of statues and shrines and altars and all these things. Now, let's talk a little bit about Athens, some context. Of course, we know Athens is kind of the birthplace of Western civilization. It's the place of the great philosophers, the place of big ideas, of the latest trends, of great influence as well. But it is also a very deeply spiritual place. One historian said when you would have walked through Athens, it would have been easier for you to find a god than to find another person. That means on every corner there's a statue and a shrine and an altar. And maybe you're saying like, oh, that is so primitive. That is so archaic that these people were so glued to their objects. Right? We're not so different to them. We're also so fixated on some objects. But I wanted to just talk briefly about this thing of idolatry. It's a big topic, big theme in the Bible. Idolatry, of bowing to idols, it's more than just a shrine or an altar or a physical thing like a golden calf or anything. Idolatry runs deep also in our culture. It runs deep in our church. It runs deep in our hearts. And we don't always recognize it. I'm saying we because it includes all of us, we are way too quick to bow to other things than God. We bow to the God of popularity. We bow to the God of influence. We bow to the God of success. We bow to the God of fun. We bow to the God of lust. We are so quick to bow to other gods than Him. What is idolatry? What is an idol? Idolatry is when you look to anything other than God with the hope that it will give you meaning or purpose or joy or significance. Again, idolatry is when you look to anything other than God with the hope that it will give you meaning or purpose or significance or joy. That means, maybe you want to write this down, anything can become an idol when it becomes first in your life. Anything can become an idol when it becomes first in your life. Even a good thing can become an idol when it becomes first in your life. A good thing like your family can become your idol. Your job can become your idol. Those are good things. Your health can become your idol. Your church can become your idol. Anything that is a good thing, when you make it an ultimate thing, you've made it an idol. Okay? And here comes Paul, and he shows up in Athens, and I love this. He doesn't mock them or just criticize them, like, for their idols. But what he wants to do, I believe, he wants to appeal to their hunger. He wants to appeal to their desires. And he says to them, guys, I know you believe stuff. I can see that you're longing for it. I can see you're searching for it, but you just haven't found it yet. You're not seeing it. God is not who you think. He's bigger than you think. And so he comes to them with this challenge for the people of Athens, and I believe the challenge that he has for Athens is the same challenge he would have if he were to come through the room right now, the same challenge that he would have for people in Berlin. And so we want to look at that over the next few weeks and unpack his challenge for the people in this city, and hopefully also we understand how it is for us. So he begins with beliefs. He talks to them about their beliefs. Why is that important? Maybe you want to write this down. What you believe shapes how you live. What you believe shapes how you live. In other words, right believing turns to right living, not the other way around. Oftentimes we think, if I just behave right, if I just do right, if I am good to other people, if I just do the right things, I will end up with the right faith. No, you got it upside down. When all you do is focus on the external, like your behaviors, we have a word for that, that's called religion. It's just about, I need to behave, my morality and my rituals. That is religion. At Mosaic, we don't preach religion. We don't preach behavior modification. We preach heart transformation through faith in Jesus Christ. You actually get a new heart, and that changes everything. But, let me just explain. So some of us, actually many of us, we're walking through stuff in our lives right now, and some of it is pleasant, some of it is unpleasant. And when we go through difficulties in any area, what we try to do is we try to treat our behavior. I want to suggest to you, treat the belief. Ask yourself, is there something in my mind right now that is off about this? Is there something I'm believing about this right now that is actually wrong, that I need to change the way I'm thinking and believing about this? For example, if you believe that you are a victim, then you will go through all days of your life saying, but I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. If you believe that you are weak, then you will live a powerless life, and you will always take a step back from the things that God is inviting you to step into. Make sense? When you believe that God is disappointed with you, then you will go into any situation trying to win His favor. You will try to prove yourself to God when you think He's disappointed with you. When you believe that you are not valuable, you will live your life giving everybody discounts on your heart, and you will sell yourself cheap. Does that make sense? If, on the other hand, When you believe and you know that you are in Christ, you live from a different center and you no longer labor for identity, you are rooted in identity. When you believe that you are a child of God, you actually start walking by faith and you have a new confidence, not a self-confidence, but a God confidence that is out of this world. When you believe that you are actually forgiven, then you're no longer chained to the regrets of past mistakes, but you are free. Bless you. And when you believe that the cross is enough, you are liberated from the religious anxiety, and you can know it's like, man, my past is forgiven, my present makes sense, my future is secure. That's it. That's all I need. I know where I'm coming from. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. Like that's such a relief. The cross is enough. Does that make sense? So what you believe, guys, what you believe about yourself, about life, about purpose, about God matters more than you realize. There's been a theologian, English speaking, I don't know, I think he was from America, A.W. Tozer. Maybe he was British or Australian. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, A.W. Tozer. He said this: what comes to mind when you think about God is the most important thing about you. We think the most important thing about us is how we look or what we work or whatever. No, the most important thing is that what comes to mind when you think about God is the most important thing about you. So that's where Paul starts. He goes into Athens, and maybe you've counted in this passage, he actually talks to different groups of people. There are 4 different groups of people that he talks to, and each of them have a different worldview, a different set of beliefs, and he challenges all 4 of them. Now, I want to just portray those 4 groups and those 4 worldviews, because I think those were not just in ancient Athens, but they're actually found right here in the city of Berlin as well, and I believe they're also found right here in this room. So let's see, maybe 1 or 2 of them look or sound familiar to you. The first group of people that he talks to is what I would just call the God-fearing believers. Those were people who were worshiping in the synagogue, the Jews, and people also who had converted to Judaism. Those were people, yes, they believed in the one true God. They had the scriptures, they had the story, they had the traditions, they had the morality. They were participating, they were close to the things of God. However, the thing is, you can inherit things about God without ever knowing Him. You can grow up in church, you can sing the songs, you can participate, you can follow the rules, you can celebrate the traditions and the festive days and all of that. You can be part of the game, but still, God is just something you have inherited rather than someone you have encountered. Okay? And Paul is saying to these God-fearing people, is like, hey, you believe God is found in your spiritual heritage, but you're wrong. God is not who you think, he says. So come, he invites you to seek him and perhaps look out for him so that you can find him. God is not far from any one of us, he says. The second group of people he talks to is the Epicureans. Everybody say Epicureans. Right? Epicurean. That's not a word you thought you were going to say today when you woke up. Epicureans. Okay? The Epicureans, basically what they said, if it feels good, it's God. If it feels good, if it makes you happy, do it. Would you agree with me that that's a very common mantra in Berlin? Come on, Berlin is a hedonistic society where people come here, people move here because this is a city where you can have a lot of fun. We're all, in many ways, whether we actually recognize it or not, we're finding new ways to feed our appetite and just chase after pleasure. After pleasure. We say things like, hey, if it feels good, do it. If it feels good, do it. If you want it, buy it. If she turns you on, sleep with her. If this numbs your pain, use it. Whether it's a chemical or a bottle or an image or something you want to eat. You know, we have to just go for it. Just go for it. And the problem is, guys, the thing is, pleasure feels good in the moment, but it cannot ever give you long-lasting joy. It leaves you emptier than you felt before. Pleasure is nice in the moment. Of course it is. Otherwise we wouldn't pursue it. Can I just say this? People looked at me in the first service. I thought, maybe I shouldn't say it. I'll say it. Sinning is fun. Can I say this as a pastor? Yes, of course, sin is fun. If it weren't fun, we wouldn't do it. Or if your sin is not fun, you're not doing it right. I don't know. No, I shouldn't have said this. No, I shouldn't have said this. But sin is fun. Of course it's fun. It's fun in the moment. But it leaves you emptier than you felt before afterwards. That's the thing with pleasure. It's not feeding you. It's not satisfying you. It's just creating a bigger void inside of you. And you want more. It doesn't curb the appetite. It stimulates the appetite. I want more of this. I want more of this. I want more of this. Suddenly you're addicted to some pleasure, some form. And you're never satisfied. And Paul goes to the Epicureans like, guys, you believe God is found in pleasure, but you're wrong. God is not who you think. Look again. He's inviting you to come and seek him and perhaps reach out for him and then find him. God is not as far as you think. He's closer than you think. The third group of people he talks to are the Stoics. Everybody say Stoics. Stoics, yeah. They were the people who would say, master yourself. The answer is within you. God is found in the willpower. God is found in your self-control and your self-mastery. So work hard on yourself. Look within and discover who you are. And then you have to work on your self-actualization. Right? And the Stoics would also say you got to suppress your emotions. Because emotions are for amateurs, for the losers. Don't show your tears, go like this and you go through life. Heroic, and you master it. Whatever comes to you, you're floating above it, kind of thing, yeah? So we have that sometimes among, you talk to someone like, hey, how's it going? He's like, fine. Like, you don't seem fine. Yeah, I'm fine. It's like, even in church, you wouldn't believe. I say to people, some of you have done it to me this morning. I say, how's it going? I'm blessed, Pastor. What are you saying? Well, I'm blessed. Or you say, hey, can I pray for you? No need. No need. You can pray for the other losers here, but not for me, No need. No, because I'm reading this book on self-actualization. And I've got this. I'm going to work this out. Or have this self-help podcast that's really going to help me. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things. I can do this. And I'm caricaturing, but you see where I'm coming from. And Paul is going to the Stoics, and he says, guys, you think God is found in your self-mastery, in your self-control, but you're wrong. God is not who you think. He's inviting you to seek him and perhaps reach out for him and to find him. He's closer than you think. He's not far from any one of us. And then the last group is a little later. Paul is invited up to that hill that I mentioned, the Areopagus. It's a hill next to the Acropolis. If those of you have been to Athens, you would have seen it. I think right now it's just a rock, but there would have been a building on it, and this would have been the place where kind of great ideas were exchanged. Okay? Think ancient TED Talk. Okay, that's the Areopagus. That's like kind of the great thinkers, the intellectual elite called the Areopagites. That's another word we have to say together. Come on, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Areopagites. Yes. So they were up there and they were debating all the big ideas. They were the smart people. If Socrates had a podcast, that's where he would record it. Okay? They were the guardians. This is important. They were the guardians of acceptable ideas in Athens, meaning they were ruled by reason and they were also ruling what was reasonable. They were also ruling what was credible and incredible, what was politically correct and what was politically incorrect. They were ruling and deciding where kind of society's mind was going to go, and they were kind of protective of the ideas, which is why Paul was invited up. There's some outback preacher in the streets, in the marketplace. Let's hear what he has to say so then we can decide whether this is something that Athenians should consider or we actually want to sideline. So that's what they were doing. Now, would you agree with me that we maybe live in a time where we don't maybe have the Areopagites as such, but we also live in a time where it feels like ideas are being filtered through media and academia, social media, the digital marketplace. It feels like that's where, in German we have the word Meinungsmacher, I don't even know how to say that, where opinions are being made and where it's kind of being decided about which ideas are good and permitted, worth keeping, and which ideas should be dismissed. And I think for Christians, especially for the church, I don't think we've ever been in a situation like this, or it's not been in a long time in this country, where we face such huge pressure to make God conformable, is that a word? Like blend him into society's expectations. So that we don't have a God who's offensive. So we don't have a God who is disagreeing with us. We just need a God who blends in with what we have determined is culturally appropriate. What we have determined is politically correct. And if God goes outside of that box, we can't have that. Am I being too honest? I'm not having a political statement here. I'm just making an observation of something that is, I believe, shifting right before us. So these Areopagites, they were curious. They were curious about Paul and what he was preaching. But what I love is that Paul didn't go up to them to flatter them, to tickle their ears and just tell them what they wanted to hear. He straight up tells them, guys, you got a small view of God. You've got it all wrong about God. You are trying to fit him into your preferences. You are trying to tame him for your society. You are trying to reduce him down to an idea. But these are finite attempts to try to limit an infinite God. It's not going to happen. It is impossible. You're trying to mold God into something that you can hold, into something that you can control. But basically he's telling them, guys, your brains are not big enough. You are smart people, but your brains are not big enough to hold this God. Even the temples you've built are not big enough. And he was standing on that hill and looking over to the Acropolis where there's this big temple. I forgot the name again I wrote it down. Parthenon? Yeah, look how educated I am. I was just like, what is it? There was a big temple on the other mountain. It's like, hey, that's built for the gods and all that. And maybe Paul was even pointing over. It's like, hey, but God, he does not live in temples built by human hands. Let's read this verse again, verse 24. He says, the God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and he does not live in brains. He does not live in boxes. He does not live even in buildings and temples built by human hands. By the way, can I just, on the side, this is not just a belief back then, but this is in our heads as well. Somehow it's in our head. This right here, where we're meeting right now, is an event venue. This used to be a bakery where they were providing lunch boxes for the Prussian army when they were fighting Napoleon. That's how old this building is. It's quite impressive. I know, right? It's like, yeah, we didn't know this. Yeah, and so that's what happened here. Now it's an event location, but we use it for church. But you know this, God doesn't live at Heeresbäckerei. This is not his house. This is not his home. He doesn't need a home. He doesn't have a house anymore. We often think it's a place where we have to go to encounter God's presence. But the church of Jesus is not a place, it's a people. Okay, so all week long, this place here is dead and empty. Even when there are other events, it's dead. Without you, this place, spiritually speaking, is dead and empty. But the moment you walk in, where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, bam, there he is. God shows up. Okay, so God does not live inside the boxes that we build. God does not live in the building frames that we build for him. He's bigger than that. Can't contain him. You catch me? We're so quick sometimes, without even realizing, we do the same things that the Areopagites did. We build little boxes for God. And we try to fit God into our categories, into our little, imagine a shoebox that I'm carrying. It's like, there's God inside. And then we carry him around. It's like, I take God with me wherever we go. I carry my God. Kind of like in the Old Testament, there's a story of Rachel and Jacob. And Rachel was the daughter of a man named Laban. And when they left Laban's house, she took her dad's little idols and she packed them in the bag of her camel's saddle. And I'm thinking, that's not much of a God if you can put him in your bag, right? But we think, I carry God around. It's like, that's not much of a God if he fits inside of your box. Or you say things like, I think I let God down. How can you let God down? You think you're holding him up? He's holding you up. You can't let God down. And that's why Paul is saying, guys, he doesn't fit in your box. He doesn't fit in your bags. He doesn't fit in your brains. He's not small. He doesn't need you to filter him. He doesn't need you to carry him. In fact, he says he's not served by human hands as if he needed anything. God doesn't need your help. Do you know this? You're offended by this right now, I can tell. You're like, no, of course God needs my help. Who else is going to help him if I don't help him? Like, I'm his biggest asset in the kingdom in 2026. Like, of course he needs my help. God does not need your help. Who told you that God needs your help? You know, as if God has an identity crisis every Sunday. Oh, man, I hope they like me. I hope they're going to help me. And he's like, come on, my people, worship me, praise me, hallelujah me. Tell me how wonderful I am. Where's that coming from? That God does not have an identity crisis. God doesn't need your approval. God does not need your input. God does not need your introductions to the people in your network. God does not need your money. God does not need your ministry. God does not need your filter. God does not need your cultural interpretation. It's like, let me explain to you guys what he means. God does not need me to preach to you. He doesn't need anything. He's sovereign. He's secure. God does not sleep. He does not grow tired. He does not grow old. God does not stutter. He is not weak. He is not offended. He is not overwhelmed. He is not surprised. He is not limited. He is not out of options. That's why Paul says to these guys, guys, you can't just box him into your little finite brains. It's not going to work. God is so much bigger than any box you could ever create for him. Would you write this down? It's up on the screen. If God is small enough to fit in a box, he's not big enough to be worshipped. I wish this was mine. It's Tim Keller who said this. I should have accredited him, so I'm saying it now. It's not mine. It's not mine. Tim Keller, smart man. Read him. If God is small enough to fit in your box, he's not big enough to be worshipped. If you have a God who never disagrees with you, who never outrages you, who never offends you, I'm pretty sure you have a God who just placed inside of your box, made in your own image, but it's not the living God. Okay? Now the thing is, you still with me? Yeah? When it comes to God, we don't get to define who he is. Sometimes in Berlin I have conversations with people and they say something a bit weird. They say, I like to think of God as fill in the blank. I like to think of God. That is a weird thing to say. Like Abner, if I were to say to you, I like to think of Abner as a psychopath. He would stand there and was like, hold on a minute, Dave. You can't just make stuff up about me. I am a person. You have to get to know me. You can't just make things up about me. That's the same with God. When you don't know God, you make stuff up about him. And then you say things like, I like to think of God like Gandalf, or like a poltergeist, or a genie in a bottle, or like Santa Claus. And those are good images. Or sometimes it's also your fears speaking when you think like, oh, I'm afraid God might be like a mean landlord, or an angry dictator, or a mean judge, or whatever, or an intimidating bouncer in a club. No wonder you don't have a relationship with him. No wonder you don't lift your hands in worship. No wonder you don't pray bold prayers. You don't know him. You just have an idea about him, and it's off. Listen, neither your trauma, nor your grandmother, nor your fears, nor your favorite podcaster, nor your culture get to determine who God is. Jesus determines who God is. It's why he came. God sent his son to reveal himself to us through him. Never before did God put himself on display like he did when he sent his son Jesus. Why the Bible says in Colossians 1, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. It's why the Bible says in Hebrews chapter 1, Jesus is the exact representation of God's nature. In other words, if you want to know what God is like, look to Jesus. If you want to know what he's like, what he's about, look to Jesus. There's a German theologian in the 16th century that I know very little about, but he has this one quote. Hans Denk is his name, or was his name. Early 16th century. I think we have it on the screen, this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. He says, "The means to know God is Jesus Christ, whom no one may know unless they follow after him with their whole lives." Let me say this again. The means to know God is Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ, whom no one may know unless they follow after him with their whole lives. Isn't that powerful? If you want to know God, look to Jesus. And if you want to know Jesus, you got to follow after him. You can't just make stuff up. Oh, I think of Jesus like this. No, you got to follow. You got to get to know him and journey with him. And how does Jesus reveal the Father to his followers? Well, all kinds of revelations, of course, but there was one revelation that was the most groundbreaking, culture-shifting, game-changing revelation that he could have presented. Right in the beginning of when he taught his disciples how to pray, he said to them, here's how you should pray. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. He introduces God not as a tyrant or as a mean boss or an intimidating bouncer or a punisher, but as a father. And not just any father, a good father, the best father. So good, so caring, so attentive, so protective, so approachable, so accessible, so devoted that you can't fit him in a box. Here's what a father does. If you want to know what fathering feels like, fathering is this. You're desperately hoping and secretly hurting for your children to trust your ways and love you back. That's what 17, almost 18 years of fathering feels like for me. You're desperately hoping, secretly hurting for your children to trust your ways and love you back. Because you love them. You do anything for them. That's how our Father feels for you. He's desperately hoping, secretly hurting for you to trust his ways and to love him back. And that's why Paul is saying, hey, you guys, you have all kinds of incredible ideas. I'm sure you've thought them through. I'm sure you're smarter than me. But God is not who you think. God is not who you think. Verse 22. Let's read this again. Verse 22, he says, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. As I walk around and look carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription. This one here, this is to an unknown God. In case we missed any one of the gods, here's also the one we don't know about. We'll worship this one as well." To an unknown God. You are religious, he says, but you just don't know. You are ignorant of the very thing you worship. You are ignorant. The people of Athens, they were not atheists. They were spiritual, but they were blind. They were ignorant. I'm going to say this, and I hope I don't step on your toes, but some of you are ignorant when it comes to who you worship. Don't take offense by this. Take inventory. Search your heart with what do I mean by that? Like, am I ignorant about God? Have I missed something? Do I know God? Do I know him personally? Is it all in my head? Ignorance is not always inability. Ignorance often is inattention. We use ignorance as an excuse, like, oh, I couldn't have known. Paul is saying, no, you could have known, you just didn't look. You just made one up, like, this is to an unknown God, but you're ignorant about it. You need to look a little bit closer. You are not paying attention. You are ignorant. You are distracted. You are distracted. I have discovered the enemy, he doesn't have to destroy me if he can just distract me. He doesn't have to destroy me if he can just distract me. If the enemy knows, Dave, this guy, I can't stop him, when he realizes I can't stop him, he's going to speed me up. When the enemy realizes he can't stop you, he will speed up your life. He'll just make you busy. He'll make you chase after all the other stuff faster and faster. And you run around with your little guard box from idol to idol, trying to just do it right. And you're busy and you're busy and you're busy. But the speed is the enemy of attention. Write this down. Speed is the enemy of attention. You can fly over a forest with an airplane, and you get from A to B very fast. And you see, trees for miles, but you're missing all the details. You're just flying over the forest very, very quickly. But when you take a walk through the forest, you see the roots. You see the details. You see things blossom. You see the life. That's how it is with God. Some of you are just flying too fast. You're missing all the details with God. It's not that, for some of you, it's not like you're far from God. You're just moving too fast. Does that make sense? This is an invitation for you to slow down and look again and see him more fully. Last verse. I guess I need to wrap up. Okay. No. Last verse, 26. God the Father, he made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. That's a remarkable thing that Paul is saying here to the people of Athens. He's saying God planned the entire universe, and he orchestrated the history of mankind. And then also he sent Jesus, who lived and died and rose again. All of that so that you and I can have a relationship with him, that personal, so that you and I can actually get to know him and not just ideas about him. Think about what that means. Don't ever question your value again. Think about what that means. If Father didn't want a relationship with you, if Father did not want a relationship with you, there wouldn't be a universe. He would have never made you. He would have never sent Jesus. That's how much he cares. That's how much he loves you. This series that we're starting today, and I hope you're here over the next few weeks, is an invitation. Come and see. Come and look again. Come and get a brand new look on this God. And maybe you're realizing I need to open my eyes to see him more fully. Maybe I need to let God out of the box. Let's bow our heads for prayer. And maybe you want to just pray in your heart. Maybe you just want to say this to him. God, I don't need a new God, but I need a new view of God. Would you say it? Just tell him this, Lord, I don't need a new God, but I need a new view of God. This picture that I had of you was too small to begin with. And I want to confess today, Lord, that I have tried to put you in my box, into my preferences, into what feels comfortable and manageable for me. I confess that and I apologize for that. I'm asking right now, would you give me a new view of yourself? By your grace, it's not like I'm entitled to it or deserve it, but I so long to see you. I so long to know you. I so long to love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.